What if the turning point of the 20th century had taken a different turn? What if the USSR had surrendered to Germany during World War II? Now that's a question to ponder, isn't it? The Second World War was a pivotal moment in history, a global conflict that left no corner of the world untouched. The USSR played a significant role in this grand narrative, its refusal to surrender to the German forces becoming a beacon of resilience and a crucial factor in the eventual victory of the Allies. But let's take a moment to consider an alternate scenario. What if the USSR had buckled under the pressure? What if the Red Army had laid down their arms and agreed to the terms of the Third Reich? The implications of such a surrender would have been far-reaching and profound, rippling through the annals of history and reshaping the world as we know it. Imagine a world where the USSR bowed to the pressure of the German forces. Let's explore this alternate history. In this alternate timeline, the year 1942 sees the USSR surrendering to Germany. The unthinkable has become reality. A world so used to the USSR's unyielding resilience is now witnessing a truly historic event. Imagine the scene. The Russian winter has just set in, and the battle-weary Red Army is stretched thin over the vast Eastern Front. Despite their fierce determination, the Soviet forces have borne the brunt of the German war machine, suffering devastating losses. The endless push and pull on the front lines have taken a toll on the morale of the soldiers and the citizens alike. In this parallel universe, the Soviet leadership finds itself in a precarious position. The human cost of the war has been astronomical, and the strategic reserves are dwindling. The USSR, so formidable on paper, is on the brink of collapse under the crushing weight of the German onslaught. The reasons for this imagined surrender are manifold. Perhaps the Soviet leadership made a strategic miscalculation, underestimating the German forces' strength and tenacity. Perhaps the crippling losses on the battlefield and the strain on the home front led to an unprecedented decision to capitulate. This is a world where the USSR's iron will has faltered, where the breaking point has been reached and crossed. In this hypothetical scenario, the USSR signs a peace treaty with Germany, effectively relinquishing control of vast territories stretching from the Baltics to the Urals. A world that had seen the USSR as an immovable object is now grappling with the reality of its surrender. The balance of power in Europe, and indeed the world, has shifted dramatically. The world watches in shock as the USSR falls under German control. The implications are enormous and the future uncertain. The course of World War II, and indeed the trajectory of global history, has been irrevocably altered. The unthinkable has occurred, and the world must now confront this new reality. Germany now stands as the unchallenged superpower in Europe and Asia. With the surrender of the USSR, the world map has been redrawn, and the geopolitical landscape has been radically transformed. The dominoes of nation-states fall one by one under the shadow of the German Reich, marking the dawn of a new era. In this new world order, Germany is at the helm, steering the course of history. Its sphere of influence expands, reaching far beyond its borders. From the icy plains of Siberia to the vibrant cities of Western Europe, the German flag now flies high, a symbol of the Reich's far-reaching power. The German Reich consolidates its power, tightening its grip on the territories it has won. A new economic system takes root, fueled by the vast resources of the conquered lands. The Reichsmark becomes the dominant currency, replacing the ruble, the franc, and the pound in territories under German control. This consolidation of power is not only economic but also political. The Reich implements a system of governance that echoes its own, ensuring the spread of its ideology. The political landscape of Europe and Asia is reshaped in the image of the Reich, a reflection of its dominance. And with this dominance comes influence. German becomes the lingua franca, the language of commerce, diplomacy, and everyday life. German culture permeates every facet of life in the territories under its control, from the arts to the sciences, from education to entertainment. This new world order, however, is not without its challenges. Resistance movements spring up like mushrooms after a rain, a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human will. These movements, though small and scattered, pose a threat to the Reich's dominance and hint at the possibility of a future uprising. The balance of power has shifted dramatically with unforeseen consequences. The world watches with bated breath as the new world order unfolds, a world order shaped by the German Reich. The ripple effects of this seismic shift in power will be felt for generations to come, shaping the history of the world as we know it. With the USSR out of the picture, what becomes of the remaining Allies? This hypothetical scenario we're exploring leaves us with a world where the Allies' collective strength has been significantly diminished. The remaining major players, the United States and the United Kingdom, would have found themselves in a precarious position. The United States, historically hesitant to enter the fray, would now be faced with a choice of monumental proportions. Would they retreat further into isolationism, or would they step up, recognizing the threat posed by an emboldened Germany? It's conceivable that the US, with its industrial might and vast resources, might have doubled down on its efforts, rallying its populace around the cause of freedom and democracy. The American response would be instrumental in shaping the course of this alternate history. Across the pond, the United Kingdom would be grappling with its own set of dilemmas. The British, having held their ground against the German onslaught, would now be facing an enemy emboldened by its victory over the USSR. The Battle of Britain, a point of national pride, would take on a new significance in this context. The British resolve would be tested like never before, with the fate of Europe hanging in the balance. In addition to these two powerhouses, a constellation of smaller nations, each with their own unique strategic considerations, would also be adjusting to this new world order. The likes of Canada, Australia and New Zealand, with their ties to the UK, would be pulled further into the conflict. The Free French forces operating out of London would be desperate for a way to reclaim their homeland from German occupation. This alternate timeline paints a vastly different picture of World War II, with the Allies scrambling to adjust to a world where the USSR is no longer a part of their coalition. The strategies and responses of the remaining Allies would be shaped by a myriad of factors, with each nation grappling with its own unique set of challenges. The remaining Allies face a daunting task, adjusting to a world where Germany holds the reins. This alternate history would have left a lasting impact on the world as we know it. Let's begin with international politics. The world order as we know it, with the United States and Russia as the major superpowers, would be drastically different. Instead, we would likely see Germany and perhaps Japan taking center stage. The Cold War era, defined by the tension between the capitalist West and the communist East, would be replaced by a new era of ideological conflict, likely between fascism and democracy. In this parallel universe, the United Nations might not exist, or if it did, it would be under the influence of a victorious Axis. The balance of power would be tipped, and the geopolitical chessboard would be reset. Nations would have to navigate this new landscape, with alliances and rivalries forming in unexpected places. Now let's move on to culture. The cultural landscape would be vastly different. Consider the great contributions of Russian literature, music, and art in our timeline. Would these cultural treasures have blossomed under the rule of a totalitarian regime that valued conformity and control? Or would they be suppressed, replaced by a culture that reflected the values of the victors? Lastly, let's talk about technology. The space race, largely fueled by the rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union, might not have occurred. Without this competition, would we have landed a man on the moon by the late 60s? Would technological advancements be driven by a different set of motivations, perhaps military dominance or resource control? In this world, the echoes of World War II would reverberate differently, shaping a reality that's both familiar and alien. The ripples of this alternate history, where the USSR surrendered to Germany, would extend far beyond the borders of these nations, touching every corner of the globe and influencing every aspect of life as we know it. So, while it's a fascinating thought experiment, it's also a sobering reminder of the profound impact that historical events can have on our present and future. The surrender of the USSR to Germany during World War II would have rewritten history. It's a proposition that paints a dramatically different reality, one where the geopolitical balance of power is tipped in favor of the Axis powers. The reasons behind this hypothetical surrender are complex. A combination of exhaustion, strategic missteps, and internal pressures could have forced the USSR's hand. However, the surrender wouldn't have marked the end of the war. The remaining allies would have had to reassess their strategies, potentially leading to a more protracted and bloody conflict. In the long run, the world map could have been redrawn, with lasting impacts on global politics, economies, and societies. While this alternate history remains a product of imagination, it offers a fascinating insight into the fragile and unpredictable nature of our world. History is not set in stone, it's a tapestry interwoven with countless threads of decisions, actions, and chance occurrences, and that's what makes it endlessly intriguing.